If you're a man over 60 and someone told you it's normal to wake up 3, 4, sometimes 5 times a night to pee, I want you to hear me clearly. That advice is incomplete, and it is not harmless. It steals your sleep, chips away at your energy, and little by little it changes the way you live your days. You start planning car rides around bathrooms. You stop drinking water after lunch. You whisper apologies to your partner for the nightly shuffling. And you tell yourself, well, this is what getting older looks like. I'm here to challenge that story firmly, compassionately, and with decades of clinical experience behind me. There is a daily habit, something you do without even thinking, that quietly inflames your prostate, aggravates your bladder, and sets you up for those 1 a.m., 3 a.m., and 5 a.m. trips to the bathroom. It's not just about age. Yes, the prostate can change over time, but that's only half the truth. The other half is how your everyday choices nudge your body toward irritation, swelling, and hyperalert signals that scream, go now, even when your bladder isn't truly full. And no one warns you, not your friends, not your family, and too often, not even your doctor, because when the symptoms sound typical, they get waved away as inevitable. They're not. I've worked with thousands of men in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, men who built families, businesses, and communities. Men who are not looking for lectures, but for answers that work in real life. They sit across from me in the clinic and say the same thing in different words. Doc, I'm tired. I just want one solid night I understand. I've heard the strain in your voice, the embarrassment you don't want to admit, the quiet fear that maybe this is the new normal. It doesn't have to be. And if you stay with me to the end, I'm going to show you a simple 15-second bedtime ritual my patients use to reduce pelvic pressure, calm the bladder's false alarms, and finally sleep deeper. It's not a magic trick. It's anatomy, breath, and position used wisely. But first, we have to talk about the hidden habits that are fanning the flames. Before we dive in, let me level with you about something almost no one mentions. As we age, sleep changes. The brain spends less time in deep stages. We wake more easily. The bladder signaling can become jumpy. On top of that, nighttime fluid shifts. Yes, the fluid that pooled in your legs all day can return to circulation when you put your feet up, and that can push the kidneys to make more urine in the evening. None of that means you're doomed to be up all night. It means we need to work with your biology instead of fighting it. When you understand the levers, hydration, timing, movement, what you eat and drink, how you breathe, you stop guessing and start getting your nights back. So here's my promise to you. In the next parts, I'm going to reveal the 10 everyday habits that quietly worsen urgency, dribbling, weak flow, and those relentless wake-ups. Some of them you think are helping, some you never suspected. For each one, I'll show you why it matters, what it does inside your body, and the simple swaps my patients use to feel better, without jumping straight to pills or procedures. No scare tactics, no shaming, just the truth delivered with respect so you can make choices that fit your life. You might be wondering, if age isn't the main problem, what is? Think of your prostate and bladder like neighbors sharing a thin wall. When that wall is calm and well supplied with blood, the signals are clear. Fill, then empty. But when inflammation builds, often from the little choices you repeat day after day, that wall gets irritated. The bladder sends frantic messages before it's ready. The prostate, already sensitive, feels every ounce of pressure. You end up dashing to the bathroom, passing a few frustrating drops, and crawling back into bed, only to repeat the cycle 2 hours later. That's not just aging, that's physiology you can influence. Let me give you a glimpse of what's ahead. We'll start with the habit almost every man tries first, the one that backfires the hardest, because on paper it sounds logical. If I drink less water at night, I'll make less urine. It makes sense until you look at what concentrated, acidic urine does to an older bladder lining at 2 a.m. Then we'll talk about the long afternoons in the recliner that feel well-earned but quietly reduce pelvic blood flow, the stealth caffeine that sneaks in after lunch and keeps your urinary system buzzing into the evening, the processed and spicy foods that send inflammatory messages downstream, The choice to hold it that stretches the bladder like an overfilled balloon, smoke exposure that starves tissues of oxygen, the "I'll get to it next year" attitude about checkups, the heavy rotation of red and processed meats, the belly fat that acts like an endocrine organ, turning your testosterone signal down, and the stress you carry in your bum, your shoulders, and yes, your pelvic floor long after the sun goes down. Each habit on its own seems small. Stacked together, they write your nights. If you're listening right now and recognizing yourself, I want you to feel two things: seen and hopeful. Seen because you're not imagining this and you're not weak for wanting better sleep. Hopeful because the levers you can pull are practical. We're not reinventing your life, we're refining it. A few steady sips earlier in the day, a 2-minute movement break every half hour, swapping the afternoon coffee for a soothing herbal brew, building a dinner plate that quiets inflammation instead of poking it, answering your bladder when it speaks instead of silencing it, asking your buddies to keep poker smoke-free, getting the basic labs and exams that inform smart decisions, choosing leaner, proteins and oily fish more often, trimming the waistline with gentle consistency, and practicing a few minutes of breath that lowers pelvic tension. This is not complicated, it's consistent, and consistent works. I also want you to carry something else into the next part: curiosity. We're going to challenge a few common sense fixes that aren't serving you. When you hear them, you may feel a flicker of resistance. That's normal, but give yourself permission to test new ideas. My patients don't get results because they're perfect. They get results because they pick one change and actually do it. Momentum beats motivation every time. So if you're ready, let's begin exactly where most men begin, by cutting back on evening water and wondering why the nights got worse, not better. I'll show you what's really happening inside your bladder at midnight, how to hydrate intelligently during the day, and the simple timing tweak that helps your body make less urine at night without dehydrating your tissues. And remember, at the end, I'll teach you that 15-second ritual, no equipment, no gimmicks, that reduces pelvic pressure and helps your brain and bladder calm down so you can drift off and stay there. You've done harder things than this. Tonight can be different. Let's make it so. Most men I meet start with the same solution. "Doc, I stopped drinking water after dinner." It feels logical. Less water in means less urine out. Problem solved, right? Not quite. In fact, for many of my patients, that habit is the very reason they're running to the bathroom at 1 a.m., then 3 a.m., then 5 a.m., frustrated and exhausted. What looks like common sense on the surface is quietly backfiring inside your body. Here's why. When you cut water too much, especially in the second half of the day, your urine becomes concentrated. Instead of being pale and gentle on the bladder lining, it turns darker, more acidic, and irritating. That irritation makes the bladder twitchy. It sends premature signals. Empty now, even when it's nowhere near full. And because your prostate is already sensitive, that irritation presses right up against it, magnifying every urge. The end result? More trips, not fewer. This problem is made worse by how aging changes our internal chemistry. By your 60s and 70s, levels of a hormone called ADH, anti-diuretic hormone, naturally decline at night. ADH normally helps the kidneys make less urine while you sleep. With lower levels, your kidneys don't hold back as much, and they keep producing. Add a salty dinner or late-night snack, and your body pulls in even more fluid, pushing you to the bathroom. It's not that you drank too much water, it's that your system is less efficient at balancing it. Cutting water only leaves you more dehydrated with irritated tissues and thicker, darker urine that stings the bladder. I've seen this countless times. One man in his 70s came in proudly saying he hadn't touched water after 5 p.m. in months, but he was still up 4 times a night. When we checked his labs, he was mildly dehydrated, his kidneys were under stress, and his urine was concentrated enough to look like strong tea. All we did was adjust his hydration pattern. Steady sipping from breakfast through mid-afternoon, slowing down in the evening but not stopping entirely. Within 2 weeks, he was down to waking once a night, sometimes not at all. His energy during the day improved because his body was finally clearing waste properly. And he told me, I didn't realize water could be medicine. So what's the fix? It's not about drinking gallons, it's about balance. Start your morning with a glass of water before your coffee. Keep a small bottle nearby and sip every hour or so through the day. Aim for urine that's light yellow, almost clear. That's your body's way of telling you you're in balance. In the evening, taper gently. About 90 minutes before bed, slow down your sips, but don't cut water out completely. That window gives your kidneys time to filter what they need, while your bladder empties before you lie down. If you're on heart or kidney medication, check with your doctor about your fluid goals, but don't assume less is better. In fact, Mayo Clinic and Cleveland Clinic both emphasize that chronic mild dehydration is a hidden driver of urinary irritation, especially in older men. Here's a simple pattern many of my patients follow. Breakfast, 1 glass of water with your meal. Mid-morning, a few steady sips while reading or walking. Lunch, another glass with your food. Afternoon, keep a small cup handy. Sip, don't chug. Dinner, a smaller glass, not skipped. Evening wind down. Stop heavy sipping 90 minutes before bed, but if you're thirsty, take a small mouthful. Don't punish yourself. Your body isn't asking you to drown it. It's asking you to be consistent. And when you give it what it needs, your bladder relaxes, your prostate pressure eases, and your nights calm down. Now, if not drinking enough water can silently inflame your prostate, what about the other quiet habits so many retired men fall into? Hours in the recliner, the newspaper folded, the TV humming, the crossword half done. You've earned the rest, but too much sitting can fuel the very symptoms you're desperate to escape. Let's look closer at how stillness steals circulation and quietly works against your prostate health. Think about how much time you spend sitting each day. Reading the paper in the morning, driving to the store, catching a ball game on TV, maybe working on a crossword at the kitchen table. These quiet routines feel deserved after decades of hard work. But here's what most men don't realize. Long stretches of sitting are like pressing a slow, steady weight onto your pelvic region. That pressure squeezes the tiny blood vessels feeding your prostate and bladder, starving them of oxygen and nutrients. And when blood flow slows, inflammation builds. The result? More urgency, weaker flow, and a constant sense that something just isn't right. I'll never forget Frank, a retired school principal who came to me complaining of waking 3 times a night. He laughed and said, "Doc, I've earned this recliner." And he had. But what Frank didn't know is that sitting for hours at a time wasn't just making his legs stiff. It was also creating a perfect storm for prostate swelling. His circulation slowed, tissues in the pelvic floor became congested, and over time, his bladder grew more irritable. That's why the urges crept in slowly, one night here, another night there until sleep itself felt broken. The science backs this up. Harvard Health notes that sedentary behavior increases not only cardiovascular risk, but also urinary issues in older men, largely because of impaired pelvic blood flow. Movement isn't just about burning calories. It's about keeping circulation alive, especially in areas most men don't think about. And as we age, circulation matters more. The same stillness that makes our knees stiff also keeps toxins from clearing efficiently out of the prostate. The fix isn't complicated. You don't need a gym membership or a 90-minute workout plan. You just need to break the stillness. Every 30 minutes, stand up, stretch your arms, take a few steps, look out the window. Even ankle pumps, gentle hip rotations, or shifting your weight side to side can release pressure. These micro movements restore blood flow and remind your body that it's still active, still vital. For men who struggle with balance, even standing and holding the back of a chair for a few breaths helps. Technology can help too. A simple watch alarm, a kitchen timer, even the stand reminder on many smartphones can nudge you to move. The goal isn't sweat, it's circulation. And circulation heals. Frank set a gentle timer on his phone and started rising every half hour. Within 2 weeks, he noticed he wasn't as restless at night. Within a month, he said he felt lighter, more in control, and yes, he was sleeping better. Here's a small movement menu my patients love. Stand up during every TV commercial break. Do 5 sit-to-stands from a chair. Roll your ankles 10 times each direction, or walk slowly down the hall and back. None of these take more than a minute, but they signal to your body, stay alive, stay moving. So if stillness quietly sabotages your nights, what about stimulation, the kind you pour into your favorite mug every morning? That first whiff of coffee, that warm sip, that cherished ritual. Could it be that caffeine, as comforting as it feels, is quietly firing up your bladder and stealing your rest? Let's dive into that next. Let's talk about what's on your plate, because while caffeine can wake up your bladder, certain foods can irritate and inflame it day after day without you realizing the connection. I see this most often in men who love their hearty, flavorful meals. Bacon and eggs for breakfast, a deli sandwich for lunch, and maybe a bowl of spicy chili or pizza for dinner. On the surface, it feels like comfort food, a reward you've earned. But for your prostate and bladder, it's like pouring gasoline on a smoldering fire. Processed meats, bacon, sausages, deli slices are packed with preservatives, sodium, and unhealthy fats that fuel inflammation throughout the body. And when your prostate is already a little swollen, those signals make it worse. Add in the hot peppers, chili powders, or spicy sauces many men love, and you get a direct irritation of the bladder and pelvic nerves. That irritation mimics the feeling of fullness, pushing you to the bathroom even when there's barely anything to pass. One of my patients, Bill, a 68-year-old retired contractor, came in frustrated. "Doc, I have cut back on soda. I'm walking more, but I'm still up all night." When we looked closer, his meals told the story. Processed meats, canned soups, spicy dinners, 3 or 4 nights a week. I explained how these foods weren't just feeding his taste buds, they were feeding inflammation. With a few swaps, grilled chicken instead of bacon, fresh veggies instead of frozen dinners, a little ginger or turmeric for flavor instead of chili powder. He noticed within weeks that his nights were calmer and his urgency was down. He told me, "I feel more like myself, clearer, lighter, in control." And here's where nutrition science comes in. Harvard Health and Mayo Clinic both highlight the power of anti-inflammatory foods for men over 60. Omega-3 rich fish like salmon and sardines help balance hormones. Leafy greens provide magnesium, which relaxes muscles, including those around the bladder. Fiber from beans, oats, and berries not only supports digestion, but also prevents constipation, a hidden trigger for urinary problems because a backed-up bowel presses on the bladder. Probiotics from yogurt or kefir can balance gut bacteria, which in turn helps regulate inflammation signals that reach the prostate. You don't have to overhaul your diet overnight. Start small. Replace one processed meat meal with lean protein, grilled chicken, turkey, beans, or lentils. Add a handful of walnuts or almonds for healthy fats. Swap hot chili for a warm turmeric latte or ginger tea in the evening. Even one anti-inflammatory food added daily can begin to tip the scales toward healing. Here's a simple, prostate-friendly sample day. Breakfast. Oatmeal topped with blueberries and a spoonful of Greek yogurt. Lunch. Grilled chicken and leafy greens with olive oil and avocado. Snack. A handful of walnuts or an apple with peanut butter. Dinner. Baked salmon and steamed broccoli, and quinoa. Evening sip. Chamomile or ginger tea to calm digestion in the bladder. Food isn't just fuel, it's information. Every bite sends a signal. When you choose whole, unprocessed, and gently spiced meals, you're telling your body to calm down, repair, and rest. And rest is exactly what you need at night. But what if food isn't the only way you're creating pressure? What if the very act of ignoring your body's natural urge to keep watching the game, to push through a car ride, to finish the chore, was stretching your bladder like an overfilled balloon and pressing down on your prostate? That's the next hidden habit we need to uncover. For many men, nothing feels more sacred than that first cup of coffee in the morning. The smell, the warmth, the ritual, it feels like part of who you are. But here's the truth I've seen play out time and time again. Too much caffeine doesn't just wake up your brain, it wakes up your entire urinary system. And for a prostate that's already a little enlarged, that stimulation can be the tipping point that keeps you running to the bathroom. Caffeine is a diuretic, which means it increases urine production. It's also a stimulant to the bladder muscles, making them more jumpy, more likely to signal empty now, even when they're only half full. For a younger man with a strong bladder and smooth urinary flow, this might not matter much. But in your 60s and beyond, when the prostate is often pressing gently on the urethra, those extra urges feel like someone knocking on your door every hour. You can't rest, you can't relax, and you certainly can't sleep through the night. One of my patients, Gary, thought nothing of his routine. Coffee in the morning, iced tea in the afternoon, sometimes a cola at night. "Doc, I've been doing this for years," he said, but once we pulled back the curtain, he realized he was pouring caffeine into his system all day long. That constant stimulation kept his bladder twitchy and his nights restless. Within 10 days of switching to 1 cup of coffee in the morning and replacing his afternoon drinks with herbal teas, he noticed the change. He wasn't waking as much. His stream felt stronger. And to his surprise, he didn't miss the caffeine nearly as much as he feared. Here's the guideline I give most men. Enjoy that morning cup, savor it, but consider stopping there. The FDA suggests that up to 400 milligrams of caffeine a day can be safe for healthy adults. But for older men, sensitivity rises. Even 200 milligrams, about 2 small cups of coffee, may be enough to trigger urgency. And remember, caffeine hides in places you don't expect. Green tea, black tea, cola, chocolate, even energy waters. If you've been leaning on caffeine for decades, don't cut it out overnight. That's a recipe for headaches and irritability. Instead, taper. Try this 7-day plan. On days 1 to 2, swap your afternoon coffee for half calf. On days 3 to 4, switch to decaf or an herbal tea. By days 5 to 7, keep your 1 morning coffee, but go caffeine-free afterward. This slow shift keeps your body comfortable while giving your bladder a much-needed rest. And let's not forget the impact on sleep itself. Studies from Harvard and Mayo Clinic show that caffeine lingers in the bloodstream for 6 to 8 hours. That means your 3 p.m. iced tea can still be disrupting your deep sleep at 9 or 10 at night. When older men lose deep sleep, the bladder signals become even louder, and the cycle continues. Cut the cycle, and you reclaim your nights. If you're looking for satisfying swaps, try rooibos tea, chamomile, or warm lemon water. In the afternoon, for a gentle energy boost, a short walk or a few deep breaths outdoors can do more than another cup of coffee ever will. So, if stimulation from caffeine is silently firing up your bladder, what about irritation from what lands on your plate? Because the foods you eat aren't just filling your stomach. They're sending messages to your hormones, your nerves, and yes, your prostate. And some of the most common comfort foods may be doing more damage than you think. It always surprises me how many men brush this one off as harmless. Holding in your urine. You're on the highway and don't want to stop. The game is in the fourth quarter, and you don't want to miss the ending. Or maybe you've trained yourself, after years on the bomb, to ignore your body's signals until it's convenient. But here's the truth. Every time you resist the urge to go, you're stretching your bladder beyond what it was designed for, and your prostate feels every ounce of that pressure. Think of your bladder like a balloon. Blow it up just enough, and it works fine. Keep forcing in more air than it can comfortably hold, over and over again, and what happens? The balloon wall weakens, it loses its natural shape, and it doesn't empty as cleanly as before. That's exactly what happens in your body. When your bladder is overstretched, it can't squeeze as effectively. That leaves behind small pools of urine after you go. And stagnant urine isn't harmless. It becomes a breeding ground for bacteria. Those bacteria can trigger infections, which inflame the prostate even more. The cycle is subtle at first, a weaker stream, the nagging feeling you didn't quite finish, maybe an extra bathroom trip at night, but over months and years, it adds up. I had a patient named Tom, a retired firefighter. For decades, during long shifts, he trained himself to hold it. He wore it like a badge of honor. But by 67, he was waking 5 times a night, exhausted and irritable. When I explained that his years of bladder overstretching had left it more sensitive and less efficient, he shook his head and said, "I wish someone had told me sooner." Within weeks of simply listening to his body and going when he felt the urge, his symptoms began to ease. Now let's layer in how aging changes the bladder. By your 60s and 70s, bladder capacity shrinks. The muscles can become more irritable. Nerve signals get a little jumpier. Combine that with the habit of waiting it out, and you magnify the irritation. Instead of helping, you create pressure that pushes down on the prostate and worsens urgency. Here's the fix. When your body says go, listen. It doesn't mean rushing to the bathroom every 20 minutes out of fear. That can train the bladder to be overactive. But it does mean respecting the natural urge. If you're out and about, plan ahead. Know where restrooms are. And at night, keep your bathroom path clear, well lit, and safe. Falls are a real risk for older adults waking at 2 a.m., so a nightlight and sturdy slippers are not luxuries. They're protection. You can also practice what I call relaxed release. Many men strain when they urinate, tightening their pelvic floor instead of letting it go. That habit only worsens pressure on the prostate. Instead, take a slow breath in, exhale gently, and allow the muscles at the base of your pelvis to soften as you go. This simple breathing trick often leads to a stronger, steadier stream. Holding it in might feel tough or disciplined, but in reality, it's one of the most underestimated prostate stressors there is. Your bladder and prostate are teammates. When one suffers, the other pays the price. And while holding urine is destructive, there's another daily habit that's even more toxic. This one doesn't just affect your bladder or your prostate. It damages your blood vessels, lowers oxygen delivery, and increases your risk of serious disease. I'm talking about smoking. And yes, even secondhand smoke. Smoking, or even sitting near people who smoke, may be one of the most damaging exposures your prostate can face. I've had men look me straight in the eye and say, "Doc, I quit 10 years ago. I did my part." And that's true. Quitting is one of the greatest gifts you can give your body. But here's the part most men don't realize. The damage doesn't just stop the day you throw away the pack. Every cigarette ever smoked leaves behind microscopic changes in your blood vessels and tissues. And if you're still around secondhand smoke, those same chemicals keep sneaking back in. Walter, a 72-year-old retired construction worker, told me, "I'm proud to be smoke-free, but every Friday night poker game, my buddies light up like it's 1975. He didn't connect the dots between that lingering haze in the room and the flare-ups in his symptoms. What Walter didn't know is that cigarette smoke releases thousands of chemicals. Many of them constrict blood vessels, choke off oxygen, and trigger inflammation. Your prostate, already sensitive, already dealing with age-related changes, absorbs that damage. The tissues stiffen, nutrients don't arrive as efficiently, and immune cells flood in to contain the assault. But instead of repairing, they keep your body stuck in a state of low-grade inflammation. And here's the kicker. Long-term exposure to tobacco, even secondhand, doesn't just worsen benign prostate enlargement. It raises your risk for more serious conditions, including prostate cancer. According to Mayo Clinic and the American Cancer Society, smoking is a proven factor in more aggressive prostate disease. This isn't fear-mongering, it's a wake-up call. Because even if you've smoked for decades, it's never too late to change the trajectory. I know quitting is hard. Nicotine hooks into your brain and your habits. But help is out there. Nicotine replacement therapies, support groups, medications, and free quit lines staffed with coaches who understand the struggle. For seniors, compassion matters just as much as strategy. If you've already quit, celebrate that milestone, but also protect your progress. If friends or family still smoke around you, speak up. Ask for smoke-free gatherings. Walter did exactly that. He moved his poker nights to his house, smoke-free. Within weeks, he told me, "It feels like someone turned the volume down on my discomfort." His sleep improved, his urgency eased, his energy came back. The science is clear. Within 20 minutes of quitting smoking, your blood pressure improves. Within a few weeks, circulation strengthens. Within a year, your risk of coronary disease is cut in half. And though prostate tissue heals more slowly, those same principles apply. Better oxygen, better blood flow, better resilience. So if you're still smoking, please hear this with compassion. You're not weak, you're addicted to something engineered to be addictive. And if you've quit, protect yourself from secondhand exposure. Every step counts. But there's another hidden danger that I see all too often. It's not about what you breathe, it's about what you ignore. Too many men treat their cars better than their own bodies. They go in for oil changes every few months, but skip the yearly checkups that could save them years of suffering. Let's talk about why avoiding those prostate screenings can quietly cost you the most. I can't tell you how many men walk into my office only after their symptoms have become unbearable. They've been dealing with weak flow, nighttime urgency, or that dull ache in the lower belly for months, sometimes years. When I ask why they waited so long, the answers are always the same. "I didn't want to know," or "I thought it was just age," or "Doc, I take better care of my truck than I do myself," and that's exactly the problem. You take your car for an oil change, not because it's broken, but to keep it from breaking. Why should your body deserve any less? The prostate is a tricky organ. It doesn't light up warning signals the way chest pain or shortness of breath might. Instead, it whispers, an extra bathroom trip here, a slightly weaker stream there, a restless night that feels like bad luck. By the time it shouts, the problem may already be advanced. That's why yearly prostate checkups are essential, especially once you're over 60. Here's what those checkups typically include: a physical exam, a simple blood test called PSA, and sometimes a digital rectal exam. None of them are meant to scare you. They're tools to catch issues early when lifestyle changes, mild medication, or simple monitoring can make the biggest difference. The U.S. Preventive Services Task Force recommends that men between 55 and 69 talk with their doctor about PSA testing and make the choice together. For men in their 70s, it depends on health, family history, and personal values. It's not one size fits all. It's a conversation. One of my patients, Henry, a well-dressed 66-year-old, avoided doctors for over a year. "I didn't want to know," he admitted. When he finally came in, his PSA was elevated, but we caught it early. With dietary changes, stress management, and a low-dose medication, his symptoms eased within months. He looked at me and said, "I could have saved myself a year of worry if I'd just come sooner." That's the lesson. Knowing is power, not punishment. And let's address the elephant in the room: supplements. Many men ask about saw palmetto, beta-sitosterol, or pumpkin seed oil. The truth is, the evidence is mixed. Some men feel mild relief, others notice nothing. The National Institutes of Health and Mayo Clinic both caution, these supplements are not a replacement for medical evaluation. They can be a complementary tool, but only after a proper checkup rules out anything more serious. If you're taking prescription medications, alpha blockers like tamsulosin, Flomax, or 5-alpha reductase inhibitors like finasteride, It's important to understand how they work. Alpha blockers relax the muscles around the bladder neck, making flow easier. Finasteride shrinks the prostate over months. Both can have side effects, from dizziness to sexual changes. The point is, your doctor can help you weigh these choices. But without that yearly visit, you're driving blind. So I'll ask you, when was your last checkup? Not because something felt wrong, but because you wanted to stay well. If it's been more than a year, make the call. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. And while screenings can save you years of suffering, what you put on your plate every day matters just as much. Because some of the foods many men love, thick steaks, juicy burgers, sizzling sausages, may be quietly feeding the fire of inflammation night after night. Joe was 70, a retired Navy man and proud Texan when he walked into my office. He carried himself with the confidence of someone who'd lived a disciplined life, but his face told a different story: fatigue, frustration, and restless nights. "Doc," he said with a chuckle, "I'm a steak guy. Always have been. Nothing beats a good ribeye." And I understood. Food is culture, comfort, and identity. But what Joe didn't realize was that his love for red and processed meat was quietly fueling the very inflammation that kept him up at night. Red meat, especially fatty cuts, and processed meats like bacon, sausage, and deli slices are packed with saturated fats and preservatives. Over time, these drive chronic, low-grade inflammation throughout the body. And when the prostate is already sensitive, it's like throwing logs on a fire. Multiple studies, including those from Harvard Health and the American Cancer Society, link heavy red meat consumption to worse prostate symptoms and, in some cases, higher risk of aggressive disease. But here's where many men get confused. They think the answer is to cut protein altogether. That's a dangerous myth. Older adults actually need more high-quality protein, not less, to protect muscle mass, maintain energy, and support immune health. The key isn't ditching protein, it's choosing the right kinds. Lean poultry, fish rich in omega-3s like salmon and sardines, beans, lentils, tofu, and even eggs in moderation can give your body what it needs without fanning the flames of inflammation. When Joe swapped 2 of his steak dinners each week for grilled salmon and lentil soup, he noticed something surprising. Within weeks, his belly felt lighter, his digestion was smoother, and most importantly, he was waking fewer times at night. "Doc," he told me, "I didn't realize how heavy I'd been feeling until I stopped." That's the power of changing not just the portion, but the source. Omega-3 fatty acids found in fatty fish, walnuts, and flaxseed help reduce inflammation and support cardiovascular health. Critical for blood flow to the prostate, vitamin D and calcium, often low in older men, protect bone strength and hormone balance. And plant proteins like beans and lentils come with fiber, which prevents constipation, a hidden enemy of the prostate because a backed up bowel presses directly on the bladder. Here's a simple dinner template many of my patients follow. Half the plate vegetables, a quarter lean protein, a quarter whole grains. Add healthy fats like olive oil or avocado. Not only does this calm the prostate, it also supports the heart, joints, and brain, areas that need extra care after 60. You don't have to give up steak forever. I would never tell Joe or you to abandon a food tied to family traditions and memories. But balance matters. Enjoy red meat once or twice a week. Savor it, but let most of your meals come from foods that fight inflammation, not feed it. Because here's the truth. What sits on your plate tonight shapes how you sleep tonight. And what settles around your waistline over the years sends powerful hormonal signals that can either protect or harm your prostate. Belly fat isn't just extra padding. It's an active tissue, and it may be one of the strongest hidden drivers of your nightly struggles. Leonard, a 64-year-old patient of mine, sat down with a soft smile and said, "Doc, I know I've put on some weight around the middle, but how much harm can a belly really do?" It's an honest question, and one I hear all the time. Many men think of belly fat as just extra padding, something cosmetic, maybe a little inconvenient when buttoning a shirt. But belly fat is far more than that. It's an active hormone-secreting tissue that works against you every single day. Here's what science shows us. Visceral fat, the kind that collects deep around your abdomen, doesn't just sit there quietly. It converts valuable testosterone into estrogen. That hormonal shift signals your prostate to grow, while also lowering energy, weakening muscles, and dampening sexual health. On top of that, belly fat pumps out inflammatory chemicals called cytokines. These chemicals strain your cardiovascular system, interfere with blood sugar control, and create a constant low-grade fire in your body, exactly the environment where prostate symptoms worsen. Leonard had tried to laugh off his belly, but it was no joke to his body. After we talked, he agreed to try a few small changes. A 15-minute morning walk before breakfast, swapping sugary drinks for water, adding one serving of vegetables at dinner. Within a month, he noticed he wasn't waking as often at night. His energy improved. He told me, "It's not just my prostate, it feels like I'm getting a piece of myself back." And he hadn't dropped 30 pounds, just a modest 5% of his weight, enough to ease pressure and shift his hormones in a healthier direction. That's the good news. You don't have to aim for a bodybuilder's physique or lose half your body weight. Research shows that even a small reduction, 5 to 10% of your starting weight, can significantly reduce urinary symptoms. The path doesn't have to be overwhelming either. 2 short walks a day add up. Swapping fries for a side salad a few nights a week adds up. Using resistance bands or light weights twice a week maintains muscle mass, which burns more calories even at rest. And don't underestimate what doctors call NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Standing to stretch, pacing while on the phone, gardening, or even folding laundry all count as movement that burns energy and keeps your body alive. It's also worth checking your medications with your doctor. Some drugs, like certain antidepressants, diabetes meds, or steroids, can promote weight gain or affect sleep. Adjustments can sometimes make the process easier. The key is consistency over perfection. Quick fixes don't last. Gentle, steady habits do. So while a belly may look harmless in the mirror, inside it's an endocrine disruptor, an inflammatory engine, and a powerful trigger for prostate trouble. Taking steps to reduce it is not about vanity. It's about reclaiming your nights, your energy, and your confidence. But even if your diet is balanced, your activity is steady, and your waistline is shrinking, there's still one invisible force that can undo it all. It's not what you eat, drink, or weigh. It's what you carry inside your mind and body every day: chronic, uncontrolled stress. And that hidden weight may be the most damaging of all. Of all the hidden drivers of prostate problems, this one is the most overlooked and the most powerful: chronic, uncontrolled stress. I've had countless men sit across from me, shoulders tense, jaw tight, insisting, "Doc, I'm fine. I don't get stressed. I just keep moving." But when we dig deeper, I see the truth. Worry about family, money, health, or even the loss of purpose after retirement. Those burdens don't vanish because you keep them quiet. They live in your body, and your prostate feels it. Here's what happens physiologically. Under stress, your adrenal glands pump out cortisol, the stress hormone. In small bursts, cortisol helps you survive. But when levels stay high day after day, it's like leaving the engine running all night. You burn out. Cortisol fuels inflammation, tightens the pelvic floor muscles, and disrupts hormone production. It lowers testosterone, increases sensitivity to pain, and interferes with sleep. For a prostate already under pressure, it's the perfect storm. Suddenly, the bladder feels jumpier, the urgency spikes, and your nights become restless. Richard, one of my patients, admitted he never talked about stress. "I was raised to be the rock," he said, but he couldn't ignore the way his body betrayed him. Clenched abdomen, shallow breathing, constant fatigue. When we finally addressed his stress directly, not with pills but with intention, everything shifted. 10 minutes of deep breathing each morning, a short walk at sunset, journaling once a week, calling an old friend instead of bottling things up. Within weeks, he was sleeping better and waking less often to pee. "Doc," he told me, I didn't realize how much I was holding in until I let it go. And stress relief doesn't have to be complicated. The 4-7-8 breathing method: inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7, exhale for 8. 8 calms the nervous system and softens the pelvic floor. Gentle evening walks signal to your body that the day is winding down. Laughter, whether it's a favorite sitcom or time with grandchildren, literally reduces pain perception and lowers blood pressure. Community and faith groups help ease loneliness, a hidden stressor for many older men. And here's an unusual but science-backed tip. 2 kiwi fruits before bed have been shown in studies to improve sleep quality, thanks to their natural serotonin and antioxidants. Add to that a warm caffeine-free tea or even a simple glass of warm water, and your body receives the message: it's safe to rest. I encourage men to try a worry pad ritual. Before bed, write down anything on your mind. Fold the paper, set it aside, and tell yourself, this will wait until morning. It's a small act, but it signals to your brain that it doesn't have to solve everything at 2 a.m. And that alone can quiet the racing thoughts that so often send men back and forth between bed and bathroom. Managing stress isn't weakness, it's strategy, it's leadership over your own health. And when you reduce stress, every other habit, hydration, movement, diet, weight loss, becomes easier. Now we've uncovered all 10 habits: hydration mistakes, long hours of sitting, too much caffeine, inflammatory foods, holding urine, smoking, skipping checkups, heavy red meat, belly fat, and chronic stress. Each might seem small in isolation, but stacked together, they quietly create the perfect environment for prostate trouble. The good news is you don't need to fix everything at once. You just need to start with one. And at the end of this journey, I promise to give you a simple, practical tool you can use tonight. A bedtime ritual that takes just 15 seconds, reduces pelvic pressure, calms your nervous system, and helps you sleep deeper. Let me show you exactly how to do it. You've made it this far, which tells me you're ready for the one tool that ties everything together. I call it the 15-second bedtime ritual. It's not a pill, not a gadget, not some complicated exercise. Just a simple way to calm your bladder, reduce prostate pressure, and tell your body it's time to rest. Here's how it works. When you lie down at night, place a pillow beneath your knees so your lower back and pelvis can relax. This small shift reduces the pressure that sitting or standing all day has built up in your pelvic region. Next, take one hand and place it gently on your lower belly, just below the navel. Inhale slowly through your nose, letting your belly rise under your hand. Hold for a count of 2. Then exhale through pursed lips, letting your belly soften and sink. Do this 3 times. That's it. 15 seconds. What you've just done is relax the pelvic floor muscles, restore gentle blood flow, and quiet the nervous system signals that often spark bladder urgency at night. I've taught this to men in their 60s, 70s, even their 80s. Men who thought their nights would always be broken. And they've come back to me saying the same thing. Doc, I'm waking up less. I feel calmer. I finally slept through. That's the power of intention, not intensity. Let's recap the 10 hidden habits that may have been stealing your sleep. Cutting back on water too much at night. Sitting for long hours without movement. Overdoing caffeine. Relying on processed and spicy foods. Holding urine too long. Smoking or breathing secondhand smoke. Skipping yearly prostate checkups. Eating too much red or processed meat. Carrying excess belly fat. Living with chronic uncontrolled stress. Individually, they may seem minor, but stacked together, they create the perfect storm of irritation, swelling, and restless nights. The good news? You now see them clearly. You understand the physiology, the everyday traps, and the small science-backed steps that can reverse the cycle. Remember this: you are not broken. You are not weak. You've simply been missing the full picture. And now that you have it, everything can change. Aging is not an ending. It's a new chapter. One where you take charge of your health, not by chasing perfection, but by choosing progress, one step at a time. So tonight, try the ritual. 15 seconds. Breathe, release, reset. Tomorrow, choose one habit to change. Maybe it's sipping water steadily instead of cutting it out. Maybe it's walking during commercial breaks. Maybe it's swapping your second cup of coffee for chamomile. Each step builds momentum. And please don't keep this to yourself. If you know a friend, a brother, a neighbor who wakes up exhausted, share this message. Let them know they're not alone and that simple, natural tools exist. Your voice can change someone's life. If you found value here, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Tell me, which habit resonated most? And if you want more science-backed tips made specifically for men over 60, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. Your nights can be peaceful again. Your days can be energized again. And your story isn't finished. It's just beginning healthier, stronger chapter.